Hey guys, I thought I'd do a video on my update with my little bit of visual software I'm doing, which is pretty cool. I'll start it off just by showing you this cool effect I made in it, and then I'll run through potentially how I did it. And the various other things I can do. So that spiral effect is really cool. What that is it's a combination of different effects that I've been putting together, and I've been putting together like a bit of editing software for creating these things. The idea is eventually I'll be able to time it up to things. As you can see, this is just my crazy effect that I've got going on. I've been playing about with different mathematical formula that I've been creating, which are generating all these cool kind of shapes. They're very weird and erratic, but this is because it's my erratic mode. I'll show you what I mean by that. But this is editable, so I can move everything around, which is quite nice. So I'll let this run one more time, and then I'm going to try and replicate it. I made it a couple of weeks back, and I've had the flu, so I can't entirely remember the steps I did to make this. But I'll give it my best shot. I mean, maybe I'll come up with something different. That's what's good about this, is I can come up with a lot of crazy shit. But I'll let it run through just once more, because I like it at the start when it kind of grows out. And then I might tweak it a bit. As you can see here, this cool spiral kind of grows, which I think is a really nice effect. I'm not sure what this bit of software will be used for. Currently I'm making it so that one of my friends can use it for a music video he's making, because I'm a nice guy. But I'm also going to use it for my software. I like this effect. I'm going to keep this for myself. Probably slow it down a bit, but use it as like a background kind of thing. So what I can do is, if I right click on this, I've got my shape manager form, which is pretty neat. And you see I've got these stencils. That's what decides what draws all this stuff. So Spiral 2 is my kind of distorted weird math one. If I switch it to Spiral 1, you can see there that it's a lot more solid. And I can do that with this central one as well. If I close that, I can actually make this one use Spiral 1 as well. And you see that turns into a true spiral. So if I save that and then I run it again, you can see this time it's not distorted, so it looks a lot more geometric as opposed to the other one where it looks kind of like a spider's web. But I think it's pretty cool in both cases. I'm not sure which I prefer. This one's a lot cleaner, but the other one looks a bit more unique, I guess. I like the central spiral when it's in this mode, because you can actually see the shapes it's making, whereas in the other mode it just kind of flips out. But so I like this. I think it's really cool. You can see that I've also got these outer edges on these. So what I've done there is I can change that as well. So I could make it a diamond, or I could make it a star, or I could make it a, well, triangle doesn't really work yet. I mean, it kinda does. I could even make it text, but text is a bit weird at the moment. If I go, what up, y'all? See, text is a bit strange. but I like it regardless. I can also fill it in, which I think is interesting. Filling it in doesn't really work for this big spiral too well, but it might do if it was configured differently, you know. It might definitely work. I can do the eyeball, which means I can start making cool Illuminati type shapes if I really want to. And then I can kind of fill it all in. I can also mix the stencils, so I can say I want it to be more of the eyeball and less of the spiral, or I can say I want it to be more of the spiral and less of the eyeball, which is how I get that cool effect at the start. But I can position stuff, which is, you know, nothing special. That's pretty generic. And then I have these effects that I can apply to the stencils. I can't really explain what all these do in any great detail. Like fulcrum is kind of weird one. Weight is a weird one. Filled mix is good. Filled mix is basically this slider, but I can do it to the BPM. So I could say, like, I want the filled mix every 4 beats to go from 0 to 1. And I can say I want it to rebound after it's done, so it'll go 0 to 1, then 1 to 0. And I want it to repeat, and if I add this event, then what you should see is that it starts filling itself back up. See that? That's pretty cool. If I change this back to Spiral 2, you can see it looks more like Spiral 1, which is fine. What I can also do, so I've got all these effects, right? They all do crazy stuff. Line thickness is a nice one. If I set up line thickness to go from 1 to 5 every 8 beats, right? We can see what that does. Can't really see it too well because I've got that filled one on, so I'll reset that. And I'll just put the line thickness one in. So line thickness every 8 beats, I want it to go from 1 to 4. 1 to 5, why not crank it up a bit? And you should see here something happening. The spiral kind of freaks out. I think that's because, well, there's some rendering issue going on there. However, what I'll do is I'll do what I was going to do, which is I'll clear the slate and I'll try and create something just to show it off a bit. So what I can do is I can spawn a shape. I can actually spawn multiple shapes, but I'll start with one. So I've got my shape. I can increase its size. Let's try and make something Illuminati-esque. Why not, right? So we'll go triangle, triangle, and we'll add a colour. What colour do we want it to be? Let's try red for now. Alright. And then if we rotate that a bit, annoyingly it doesn't rotate in 90 degrees. I'll need to fix that at some point. This is because I've got this screen locked. So I've got it so that you can't drag stuff off screen. I might actually turn that off, because originally I had that so that I could pin stuff to the corners really easily. But now that I have this, it's actually very easy to pin stuff to the corners for the most part. So I might remove that. You can see here I can turn it into lines, which is pretty cool. I can add another colour. Let's say it's red and yellow for now. And we can, so I'll shrink that back down. I need to fix the angles of this so I can do it a bit smoother. It's pretty cool though. So what I can do here to show off my stencils a bit is I can say, okay, well, I want it to be a triangle. Then I can also start doing crazy stuff like this. Realistically, I don't think I want the eyeball to be the other way around. So I want it to be triangle with eyeball. You can see the lines kind of freaking out a bit there. In fact, what I actually want to do is for this one. So I want to do a triangle, and then I want a new shape, and I want this shape to be an eyeball. I want the eyeball to be maybe light blue and dark blue. I'm not very good graphics guy. However, for now I think this will do the trick. Right. It's really bothering me that that doesn't tilt. One sec. What I'll do is I'll go into my shape, which is shape control. This is all my crazy code. Somewhere in here there is a rotate, set angle, and set angle is done when I mouse wheel. So I do delta divided by 10. Let's make that delta divided by 50. What I really need to do is make that tweakable so that I can rotate to different levels, because now when I do this, you will see, if I create a shape again, what you'll see is it's always going to be slower, but I would like to have that so that I can you know, do something a bit nicer. You know what, I'm going to turn off screen locking as well. Where do I do screen locking? I think it's on my layout manager. No, it's not. It's in the shape. It's in the shape again. There's a mouse down event somewhere in here on mouse move. Yeah, I'll just comment out those lines for now. And what that should let us do is drag our shapes off the screen. Cool. One final thing I'm going to do, I noticed that's not really working out. I'm just going to make it 100. This is going to make it super slow to actually rotate, but I think that's fine. It'll do the job. We're not going to be rotating too much anyway. So we'll increase the size of this and we'll rotate. There we go. See, now it's going to take me forever to grow this damn thing. So I need a nice way of transitioning between small increments and large increments. Maybe I could have a key for it. Currently, I hold down Control. So if I use the mouse wheel, it scales it, and if I hold down Control, then it rotates it instead. But for now, we'll do that. We'll make it red. And we'll make it maybe dark red. Maybe that'll look cool. We can stencilify that if we want. I think for now we want it kind of fully on, maybe. Yeah, let's keep it fully on for now. And then we'll create our eye. Eyeball. Eyeball. There he is. And what we're going to make this? Blue and dark blue. Yeah. Color name doesn't actually matter. I use that for saving. I'll probably take that out in the final version, unless it has relevance. I want to add the ability to... So I like that when it's lined. I think that looks really cool when it's lined. So what we can do is we can bring in the eyeball. Oh, it's going to take me forever as well. Right, now we have... We're getting quasi-Illuminati here. That's pretty cool. We can... do that. What we can also do, right, is we can change that to a star, and then you got like an eye with a star in the middle. Which is pretty cool. Not sure how relevant it is. I don't think we want it to be a star. We might want to do it with a circle in the middle. I think that might be pretty cool. That looks more Illuminati-esque. And then we can switch up the stencils a bit so we can say, okay, we want that to be like that maybe. That's like an eye with an eye in the eye. That's pretty cool. And then we can keep tweaking this if we wanted to, but I don't think we do. I think that's nice. That's pretty illuminated, I guess. So that's cool. Maybe we want to bring that... do we want to bring it down? Do we want to move it up? I'm not too up on my Illuminati stuff. Then we can start adding effects. I'm gonna... do I want to save this? Because the thing is, I don't want to lose my other effect because I quite like it and I want to use it for stuff. So what I'll do is events, shapes. What I'll do is I'll just copy those for now so that I can save this. And that means I can play about with it and I can move stuff around and mostly bring it back. Cool. So, see, now we can start playing with some effects. So we can go like, well, what if... See, now we can start doing line thickness. I think it'll look pretty good on this one. If we go like 8, and we want to go from 1 to 2, what's that look like? It's very subtle. You can see it's kind of glowing. It is very briefly going in and out, which I think works quite well. You can also do that on this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll go from 1 to 2. See what it looks like on the triangle as well. What we should find is that this kind of you might not notice it as much on this triangle because it's not just drawing it's actually filling in the squares. If I changed it to lined, you would see it much more. If I did that, then you would see that this bit kind of comes in and out. In theory, so you can see it almost vanishing, and then it will pop back in. But I think what we want to do is we actually want that to be like, we want it to go from 1. Let's crank it up to 10 and see what happens. We should notice a bit more of a difference there. So that's pretty cool. How about if we do that now? We're going to notice the difference. Hopefully. We're not really though. So let's add another eyeball, right? Whoops. Set that back to triangle. I meant to add another shape. I'll make this one much bigger. And we'll make this an eyeball. Right. And we'll make this have gold. Yeah. We'll make that all lined. And then we'll really crank, oops, we'll really crank up the size on this one. Now what may prove problematic is it's going to be in front of the other one. That's one thing I need to add. I need to add the ability to layer these. Currently they're layered in the order that you create them. But then what we can do is we can start trying stuff like this. If I try this, what's it going to look like? See, if that was behind it, it'd be really nice. So what I'm going to do is, I'll save that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of hack this a bit. If I go to my shapes, which is where I save my files, I open it with Le Notepad, right? I can take my third shape and I can say, no, you want to be behind the other shapes. And then if I reload it, you can see it's behind it now. So then I just need to get these on top of each other. So we're starting to slowly get something going here. If I can arrange that properly, I'd like it to be in the center. Unfortunately, I have my mouse sensitivity up like a boss for all times. Let's centralize that a bit. So we're getting there. So let's increase the shape of this guy again. And then we're going to add another colour to this. We'll make it... We'll add some colour bleed, right? This is a new one that I added. So if I go like this and I say I want colour bleed, and I want to add the same yellow. You can see what colour bleed does is it actually starts bringing in this third colour. Unfortunately, it's very rigid right now. Like it does it not very smoothly. So I think we want to take that one back out. That's another thing I need to add, is the ability to actually edit these effects on the fly. But basically I can just play around with this and I can start doing some really cool stuff. Like if I spawn this shape, right, and I make it spiral, spiral. I like playing around with the spirals because I think they're really cool. If I make this gold, then what I can do is I have this shape value, which is pretty cool. And if I up this to like 24 maybe, 24 beats, and I make it go from 0 to 20, right? 20 is like the most I've ever gone in it. You know what? Because 20 is the most I've ever gone in it, let's up it to 40. And I'll increase this to 48. And you can see it starts cycling through the shape. So what shape value is it's a value that affects my mathematical formula to decide what to draw. And this is just cycling through it basically. But I've never seen what it does when it goes beyond it looks like it just repeats. Repeats in reverse. Pretty cool though. So then what we can do is, I'll shrink that down a bit because it's a bit intensive. Right? And if we shrink that down, if we really shrink it down, we can put it in the center of that eyeball. Like that. See that? It's a bit too small to see what's going on in it now, but I think it's a pretty neat effect regardless. And so this is basically what I'm making. You can do a lot of crazy stuff as well. Hang on, I'll save that for now. I know I've saved it with this, but that's fine. You can do a lot of crazy stuff. Like if I make a spiral 2, right, I can make something that looks really nutso. If I do spiral 2 and I give it the colour whatever, right, and then I make this cycle through, spiral 2 is where it really goes nuts. If I make this like 128, and I want it to go from 0 to 20. I like 20, it works quite well. Right. Oh shit, I made that colour bleed. Oops. Well, that shape is ruined. Spiral 2, spiral 2, shape value from 0 to 128, and from 0 to, let's go with 40. See, we start getting some really weird stuff going on. But I think it's pretty neat. Now when I add a colour, let's make it that light blue I was going to make it. If we take all the lines out, that's where you get that cool effect that was in my initial intro. Where it starts kinda being freaky deaky. And I like it, you know, it's kind of erratic, but then you can start doing even crazier stuff. What you can do is you can merge spiral with spiral 2, and it will merge both shapes together. But if we make it all spiral 2 again, right, then if you start messing with the line, you can really start seeing some weird stuff starting to go on. Bring this down a bit. You see, the more I shrink this one as well, it changes. When I grow it, it changes as well. It's actually very bizarre, this one, because it changes what it draws based on the size. It also kills my computer, which is fine. So the more I actually shrink this, the weirder it gets. Which I need to analyze my math again. You get some really weird stuff going on with it. But then when you start doing stuff like this, if I add another colour, let's make it dark blue. Then if I like, what I used to do is I would do spiral mixed with spiral 2, and I would only fill in the center spiral, which used to work quite nicely. And then I would mix the stencils so that it was mostly the outer one, but with some inner, but make it so that it was only filling in the inner spiral. And then you get this weird like cog in the middle while it's being freaky deaky trying to emulate it. on the outside. But you see, the more I do this, the more they actually come together almost. So at the moment I'm just playing with this. You can see it's really starting to freak out now, to the point where it might actually murder my computer. This is the thing about playing with math. It can really decide to do stuff that your computer is not happy with. So I'll scale that down again, because I don't want to kill my frame rate. So the basic idea of this So then what I want to do is, for this one I do want to mess with line thickness, but I want to take it from 0. We'll do it to 16, but I want to take it from 0 to 1. Because then we should get kind of fading in and out of existence, which I think could be really cool. You know? And then we can tweak it a little. I think the fact that I made it go to 20 was a bit much. So I think we need to bring the shape value down again. And let's just make it go from 0 to 10. That should settle it down a bit. Now we have this just kind of growing over time, which is fine. And so here's the problem, right? I'm a coder at heart, you know? It's very much what I do. And while I can make the tools, I can't really use the tools to their full effect, which is unfortunate. What's nice is sometimes something happens that just looks really, really, really cool, and then what I can do is I can take those values and emulate them. So if I do star and diamond, right, and I make this, I don't know, green, and like even stuff like which colours go together, I've got no idea. Ich habe nicht idea. See, I can start to do like the diamond within the star. Which would be pretty rad if my colours weren't so whack. But I think I want to switch these around actually. I want it to be like diamond and star. That's better. Then what I can do is I can mix up the stencils so that it's more like that, maybe. Then I can try out some more effects. I've got like color offset effect, so I can say every 8 beats I want you to offset the color. And you start getting stuff like this. Where it will kind of blend the colors. And I can do I'll just play that with some of these. I can do the fulcrum as well. If I do that every 4. So what the fulcrum is, I'm not sure how well this will play out. The fulcrum is kind of how bright it is. So you can see it'll start going from bright to dim. Fulcrum makes it glow. I also have weight. If I make weight go every 16 maybe. What weight does is weight affects. Weight and fulcrum kind of work together in very weird ways. It's actually incredibly hard to explain without going through every single detail of how this thing is built. One thing I have been working on is text. So if I make some text that's like, I don't know, Illuminati for life, right? I give that color. Let's make it yellow. I'm really starting to kill my machine with all this. The other thing is I'm running it in debug mode, which means it's going to kill it a lot more. Let's make that line only. I think it looks a lot better when it's line only. Right? The fact that I'm recording this as well will be killing it even more. So the way my text works is very strange because it's double stencil. However, I can then start doing stuff like this. That's the other thing I can do with the stencil mix. I can create the stencil mix and I can say go from 0 to 1 every... No wait, 0 to 1 every 16, right? What this will do what this should do is it should start growing and shrinking the diamond around the star. You see that? I really have nuked my frame rate in some regards here. But this seems to be still holding up okay, which is nice. I can then start doing stuff like this as well. I can I'll show you my crazy distortion just for the sake of it. Distortion is totally nuts. If I make distortion every 4 beats, go from 0 distortion to 3 distortion. Let's up that a bit. Every 8 beats. Right. You'll start to see some crazy shit start. Like that. Because my distortion completely screws with everything. What's really cool about it, though, is I can hook it up to audio, which I think I've done in previous videos. Obviously, when it gets to these kind of levels, it's totally redundant, because you can't even see what shape you picked. However, I think it has its uses. I think I need to tweak it just a little bit more, but then it will have its uses. So here we have Illuminati for Life. Which I'm just gonna crank up. Tell you what, this mouse wheel scaling isn't great. I need to add a slider for it. Problem is with a slider is a slider has limits, you know. But I was thinking I could do a slider and I could let you manually type the limits on either side. But then that just seems more complicated than it's worth. So I can do that. I think I'll put that down here maybe. If I change it to be a diamond, right? And what I could do is I could put that within here. And get something really crazy going on. And I mean, the good thing about this is that I can do these on the beat, right? Which currently is all manual. However, I'm looking into analyzing audio to the point where I can set things up specifically to generate themselves. There's always two parts of this kind of stuff. There's creating the ability to map stuff to... Well, there's creating the effects, there's mapping the effects to a time structure, and then once you have those two things, then you can create a third system which analyzes audio and creates the other two systems for it, right? You can't do C until you've got A and B. Now I'm now at the point where I've got A and B, and I think it's a bit of a tricky one to kind of get right, but it's one that I'm very interested in working on. So obviously I'm not a graphics designer, you know. I would never make the claim. I'm just kind of dicking about for the most part. However, the tools I'm creating, if I can make them a bit more user-friendly, currently they're just me-friendly, which is fine. I think I could really be onto something pretty special. So, Illuminati for life. Let's get that glowing a bit. From 1 to 6. Now that should start glowing. There it is. You can see that. What else could we add to this? We could scale it to go from 0.5, no, to go from 0 to 0.5. I'm not entirely sure what this will do, but let's just see. Let's see what it does. It's a bit too big, but we can shrink that down again. Pull that down. And there we have yet another effect hooked up. So this is just me messing about, obviously. I think my my buddy who's using this for music has a lot more of an artistic vision than I do. I just have a programming vision, as it were. Which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. Let's try adding another colour. This is where it sometimes falls apart. Because I haven't quite got text and colour working in a nice way. You might see what I mean by that. I mean, firstly, you can't even see the new colour. That's because of the way that I render text. The way that I render text, I don't actually use all the colours. But if I add a colour offset, right, this might work. You might see it when I do this. It may start changing colours a bit. Maybe. Possibly. There we go. I mean, it's not ideal. But it's not terrible. Text is the thing I'm having the most problem with, because when it comes to my drawing method and text, when you try and draw fonts within themselves, they look really weird. Like with a circle and a diamond and a spiral, etc. What you can do is you can draw them incrementally smaller on top of each other, and that is a very easy thing to do. But with text, like if you draw 50 letter I's on top of each other, all incrementally smaller than the last, what you get is you get a kind of super weird effect where it doesn't quite look how you'd expect it to look. It's very hard to explain that one without showing you it. It's very hard. Well, maybe I could show you it. Let's see. Spawn shape. Let's try this. If I create the letter A, right? Let's see, I create the letter A, and I make it red. Now, for now that looks fine. Actually looks alright. But you see here when I turn it into just borders mode, right? If I add another colour, you can see it doesn't quite look right. It's not bordering correctly. You would expect the red to border everything, and then you would expect the yellow to be on the inside of that. But because of the way text scaling works, is you can't actually see the red here, and you just get this red kind of, it almost gives it this pseudo 3D look, which is not what I was aiming for. So this is one thing that I'm trying to solve. Let's add another colour in there. You can see the more colours you add, the weirder it looks. And I mean, that's fine. But it's not really what I was going for. You dig? I wasn't truly trying to get that effect. Did that not do anything? Should be cycling through the colours. That's an interesting one. That's a very interesting one. Why isn't it doing that? Oh, there we go. It just took a while to get started. Now it's got that crazy kind of, I don't know what it is, look going on. Something crazy. Just having a cigarette. That's what that sound is. And yes, I know it'll kill me, but you know, what doesn't? And I mean, this is basically it. Currently. But I'm doing this in conjunction with a lot of other stuff that I'm not showing off because, well, nobody seems to care really. Which is fine. I'm happy just working on it in silence these days. I used to want to do updates a lot because I thought people cared, but as long as I care, it's all good. And so, yeah, I thought I'd do this update just because I think it's pretty cool. Obviously it's not being utilized to its full effect, but because of the way my code's written, what I can do is I can create a whole bunch of stencils and effects. So I can build these up over time. and they all work together, so any effect can be used on any stencil, and any two stencils can be put together, which is how there's so much opportunity, which is why that thing I did at the beginning looks totally different to my weird Illuminati symbol. There's a lot of code here. I'll show you some of the other weird stuff I've got going on. Well, I've deleted most of it. I've been building this up over time. But let's try. Let's see what the rest of them look like, just for a laugh. I haven't used them in ages, I've just been focusing on my layout manager. Let's see what Shape Viewer looks like. Shape Viewer doesn't let you create new shapes. It just has... well, I don't know what it has. Let's see. It's been a long time since I used this one. Shape Viewer has a tiny dot. That doesn't seem right. Why has it just got a tiny dot? Let's have a look. It has a tiny dot because the scale offset is down. Let's set that to 0 and see what happens. It's just an orb. So this kind of orb is initially what my graphics programming was. I was just trying to create an orb. And it actually worked out not too badly. And it crashed. That makes sense, I haven't used it in ages. Doesn't surprise me it crashed. What's the other one I've got? Effect Tester. Let's see what that one's doing these days. Oh yeah. I was testing hooking stuff up to the beat. So this spawns a different colour. For each beat. Which could be pretty neat. Right click breaks it. Argument out of range. Yeah, that makes sense. That's fine. So that's basically it. I don't know how long this video is. But I think as a tool it has potential. Obviously the user interface isn't great. But that's just because it's for me currently. I'll tidy that up. Eventually I'm gonna create a version to give to my buddy so that he can use it to make his own stuff. So I'll need to make it a bit more user friendly. What I eventually want is like a timeline bar where you can see the different shapes and you can drag and drop effects onto them. I think that will be really cool. And I also want to add the ability to turn on like vocal distortion or vocal any effect. So currently I set the value to the beat, but I want to create it so that I can speak into the mic and it will set the value for each effect based on the microphone inputs. I think that could be really cool. But yeah, that's basically it currently. I mean, let's switch this back. Layout manager. Okay. That's fine. Oh yeah, I can't load text currently because my saving mechanism doesn't allow me to save text. That's fine. That stuff isn't actually going to load. That's good. That's another thing I need to work on. Yeah, I'm going to cut this short here, but I think it's pretty cool. Obviously it's got a long way to go, but you know, it's not bad. It's pretty good for something I've just been working on in my spare time, so yeah. Adios, mofos.